In my video on the sin of Sodom, I've made a statement which I want to expand on. I'm going to play what I said. Listen carefully, and then I would expound on it. Let's listen in. Don't forget this statement that I'm about to make. To know yada as a sexual statement is only true in heterosexual relations only. Adam knew Eve is only used in heterosexual relations unless somebody can show me anywhere in the Bible where two people, male and male, are said to know each other. When you go into the esoteric of knowing sexually, you would see that it's impossible for two males to know each other. I mentioned the esoteric because some of you subscribe to the Zohar and the Jewish metaphysical thoughts. No, yada, as a sexual statement, is only true in heterosexual relations only. It's never used for anything else but heterosexual relations when it comes to sex. So you notice what I said. Yada can be only true in heterosexual relationships. It can be only true in heterosexual relationships. And then I mentioned the Jewish metaphysical thought. I want to hang my hat on that view and show you what I mean by that. Before we start, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Let us all rise together to help uplift women in need. It's extremely important. We're going to be looking at a Kabbalistic view of yada. Judaism considers mystical interpretation to be the most advanced form of Torah study. Yes, you heard me right. Judaism. Okay, let me state that again. As Judaism considers mystical interpretation to be the most advanced form of Torah study, Kabbalah began as a movement in which only the most highly notable rabbis, usually they are males, most often over the age of 40, could uncover Jewish ideas according to mystical reasoning. As the translation of the word Kabbalah comes from the term to receive, Moshe received Torah from Sinai, to receive. Okay. Kabbalah was originally formed as a tradition passed down orally from each member to another. The earliest written mystical texts were written by Rabbad. Rabbad is Abraham ben David. However, others claim that Sefer Yetzirah, which is popularly known as the Book of Formation or the Book of Creation, is also one of Kabbalah's oldest known work. There's another one. It's called the Bahir, also known as the Book of Illumination or the Book of Brightness. It's also one of Kabbalah's oldest known works. All three pieces of work provide the foundation of Kabbalah and have had significant influence on the work of Ramban, Nachmanides. These three texts provide the theory of creation on which Kabbalah is based on, and in which Kabbalists began to emphasize the spiritual union of man and woman. Please follow me carefully. According to the mystical interpretation of the story of Genesis, or the story of creation, found in Genesis, Kabbalah teaches that the world began with one absolute entity of God. It calls that the infinite, whom surpassed the realm of human experience. While the infinite was originally androgynous, androgynous means it contains both masculine and feminine entities. So while Ein Sof, that is, the infinite, was originally androgynous, the creation of the world was sparked when God's feminine and masculine attributes were separated. In Kabbalah, the feminine aspect of God is called the Shekinah. So the Kabbalists teach that the creation of the world was sparked when God's feminine and masculine attributes were separated. The separation caused the feminine aspect of God, the Shekinah, to become trapped on an earthly realm, separated from God and his divine realm. Okay. Please follow me. Now, the Sephirot, I'm not defining myself because I'm not doing Kabbalah 101. I'm just putting meat on the statement that I made in my first video. The Sephirot are channels of God's 10 masculine and feminine attributes that connects the divine realm to the earthly realm. The Shekinah, as the Kabbalists teach, the Shekinah, or what you will call Malkut, that is the lowest of these 10 channels. They teach that the Shekinah or the Malkut can reunite with the masculine aspect. The Shekinah or the Malkut can reunite with the masculine aspect. Remember, the Shekinah is the feminine. So they teach that the feminine aspect can reunite with the masculine aspect. Because of this, it is taught that through mystical practices that symbolize the reunion of feminine and masculine energies, a Kabbalist is able to access the divine realms of God. Interesting concept. Well, who was the first to pen this down? Rabbad, Abraham ben David. Rabbad is the first known Kabbalist to write on the restoration of feminine and masculine energies. It was Ramban. In his manuscript, Ramban draws parallels between the original human union of Adam and Eve in Genesis to the union of the masculine God to his feminine counterpart in the divine realms. The correlation that he draws between these two pairs, masculine and feminine, provides a basis which Kabbalists can connect the human union to that of the divine union, and therefore draw a bridge between this human world to that of the divine world. It therefore means that just as God's female and male attributes must reunite again in order to restore the original godlike harmony that occurred in perfect union, the reuniting of a female and male on earth can also induce godlike qualities. Ramban is therefore the first known Kabbalist to write about the concept that proper sexual intercourse is holy, as he believes that man and woman should come together in one flesh, as described in the book of Genesis. Sefer Yetzirah also supports this idea. It is clear that these two earliest Kabbalistic texts support the notion that proper sexual intercourse is an inherently spiritual process. This spiritual process is what happened, according to the Kabbalists, when we see the first use of this word in Genesis. Now the man knew Yada, his wife Eve, Hawa, and she conceived. Now you understand my statement that this experience of Yada is only true with a heterosexual relationship, according to even the Kabbalistic thought. Two males cannot generate this metaphysical union that the Kabbalists subscribe to. So you cannot use the word no, Yada, for two men. That is why nowhere in Tanakh will you see two males knowing each other. It's impossible. You don't use no. And David knew Jonathan, or Jonathan knew David. It's not written anywhere. You cannot even fathom it in the metaphysical realm. The ideas that I've presented by Ramban, the ideas that I've presented, which is also true in Sefer Yetzirah, were first made public in the 12th and 13th centuries in France, Germany, and Spain. It was a way to combat Maimonides, Ramban, It was a way to combat his rationalism and Aristotelian opinions. We know who Maimonides is. We know who Ramban is. He was an influential Spanish Jewish scholar. Now, Ramban, which is Nachmanides, Ramban, who is Nachmanides, was the best known critic of Maimonides and the biggest propagator of Kabbalistic thought at that time. He influenced Kabbalah to be in direct opposition to the ideas presented by Maimonides. What ideas did Maimonides push? Maimonides argued that Jews are unable to influence God and that sexual intercourse is inherently filthy. This is what Ramban, Maimonides, pushed. Well, Ramban, Nachmanides, argued that Jews can experience God through following commandments and that, my focus, proper sexual intercourse is holy since it is described as one flesh within Genesis. One flesh within Genesis. One flesh can only happen in heterosexual relationships. That is when the knowing happens. That is when the what? Yada happens according to the mystical thought, according to the Kabbalistic view. For this reason, the most famous Kabbalistic text on sexual intercourse, the Igeret HaKodesh, which was written in the 13th century, is most often credited to Maimonides. Because of his firm stance against Maimonides, it could be argued as shaping the lasting Kabbalistic perspective of sexual intercourse. So what do? They credited the most famous Kabbalistic text on sexual intercourse, the Igeret HaKodesh, which was written in the 13th century. It is most often credited to Nachmanides. The author of Igeret HaKodesh is unknown. The actual author of the text is unknown. But the ideas presented in this text are influenced by the opposition that Nachmanides took to Maimonides, Ramban's perspective. This is why I made that statement, that those who subscribe to the Zohar, those who subscribe to the Jewish mysticism, metaphysical thoughts, those that subscribe to the Kabbalah would agree, because it's in their text that Yada is only true in heterosexual relationships. There has to be a masculine and a feminine essence for Yada to happen. Thank you for coming with me into the orchard of Torah. And we've picked some fruits from the level of Sod. Shalom.